to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. It's Wednesday, it's my gym time. So today we have decided that there will be no guests this morning. I need a space to talk to all of you and for you to speak with me. So today you can call in 215-400-0146. That's the call-in number. I need you to pick up the phone and call me because we're going to do a litany of news this morning. I really want you. Good morning, Bobby Carr. Good morning, my darling. I really, truly want you all to talk to me about the things that are happening in the country and around the world. So I'm going to read a bunch of news that I have not done in days because there's just so much going on. But the president went overseas with the NATO conversation and all that's happening there. And so I figured that it was time to have a dialogue around that and to get your opinion. So you can either type into the chat because I can see all your chat on Facebook and on YouTube here at one time. So you can chat and I can talk to you, or you can call in 215-400-0146. Let me read my morning motivation though. So this tickled me because I have been, my husband and I have been going back and forth for the last couple of days, and you all are cracking up laughing, because I shared the stories of him and I, and it's just been interesting. So I saw this post from last year or the year before where he had lost it. Well, he had left his ring at home, and I tortured him, and you all were giving me ideas, and we talked about that. But we look at these relationships and we think that they're wonderful and pie in the sky. But I want to read something to you, and let's have a discussion about it. I swear Black Jesus puts me in spaces that just makes me shake my head in exasperation and learn too. I am sitting in a spot writing and waiting to meet someone when a conversation next to me caught my attention and I zoned in. Seems this couple are on a first date based on the getting to know your questions, and the sister began sharing all her business down to her social security number. In 4 minutes, he and I learned everything from the rooter to the tutor. It got better when she said she looked him up on social media and he was with some girl that some friend of hers said looked like someone he was with, and she wanted to know what the real tea was. First date. Lord Jesus, first date. Hand to God. The dude replied, she was nobody to him beyond someone he has known for years and had sex with occasionally because she lets him. He may, on his way out the door, have breakfast with her, but that is all it is. And if anyone said anything else, it was wrong. She sat there and got into a debate with dude on the definition of dating, etc. I was so mortified, I didn't know what to do. Ladies, can y'all recognize an opportunist when you see one staring at you? Can you stop sharing so much of who you are up front so the parasites in your midst do not have so much to work with when seeking to entrap you with sweet nothings? Dude spent the entire time saying absolutely nothing, and she giggled and threw back her hair like she was on a date with Idris Elba. All I could say, all I saw was a wolf full of air and not much else. Good morning. Shaking my head. We have got to like ourselves enough to not entertain just anything or anyone. I need a cleansing. This is a true story. It happened. Well, everything I write about this stuff, is a true story. I was actually sitting in Uncle Bobby's and I was writing, and they were on a date. I remember she was sitting waiting for him. He came through the door. He sat down and he had this air of arrogance about him, like, I know I'm cute, so let's just go ahead and dance and do this thing. And she starts telling him everything about herself, her past relationships, who she had been with, why she ended the relationship. Like, first date, y'all. Women, please. No. In fact, the brother did something right. He listened more than he talked because he was picking up every nuance that she was giving to him, everything she was throwing down. I'm insecure. I need to know everything. I am Snoopy. I went searching on your social media pages. I saw you with a girl. I asked a friend. So you already know, yep, you're not somebody that I'm going to want to spend the rest of my life with. You just a kick it and run, right? And then she went on to talk about, all the things and what her dislikes were and all this other stuff. When you are on a first date, the thing to talk about is, what did Mr. and I do on our first date? talked about all kinds of nonsense. He loved sports. I learned that about him in the very beginning. He loved sports, and really we'd known each other for 5 years before we went on our first date. So that's a whole other thing, that he was, connected to his family, that his aunts and his mother, and he was saying that that he liked being around me because I am strong like his aunt Eleanor. He said her by name. He said, every time I talk to you, I see Aunt Eleanor's face because you're so no nonsense about a lot of things. And then I talked a little bit about my work. Like we didn't get into deep conversations. A week later he asked me to be his girlfriend, to start dating, and we started talking at that point about the things that we want each other to know. But this was our first date. This was our first date, and she just told everything. We do not need to disclose, how she even went into how many people she has slept with at that point in her life. And I wanted to go, oh. I was literally cringing behind her. And it took everything in me to go, girl, stop talking. Stop talking. We also have to remember that if we don't cherish our bodies, nobody's going to cherish it on our behalf. If a man thinks that he can hit it and quit it, if a man thinks that, this is what he wants to do because he sees that you have a pattern, then that's what they're not bringing you to meet their mothers and their aunts and their uncles and everything. Mr. and I were dating for maybe the second week we were dating. He took me to meet his best friend, Millicent, who he worked with, his work co-worker, and she just was sitting there looking at me like, he ain't never brought nobody to my house, so I don't know. And I'm looking at him going, I don't really know these people. Why are you taking me to them so quick? And then 3 weeks later, he took me to meet his entire family at his grandfather's 99th or 100th birthday. I forget what year he was at that point. And they were all sitting in the room going, oh, it was the most awkward thing. And because I looked so young, they all thought I was in my 20s. I was 42, 43, something like that at that point, all them years ago. And so they were just kind of just staring at me like, what does she want with him? They were nice. The only person in the room that knew me was Randall Pinkett, his cousin, because he and I had done conferences together. And so, it was very awkward. So when a man cares about you and wants to be in a conversation with you, he doesn't play games. He doesn't, come over at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. He wants to make sure that you're comfortable and that all is well. And there's certain things that he does, that he does. We can say anything with our mouths, but if our actions don't match it. And so she gave all the tea. Y'all stop giving all the tea. It is not important in that moment. And he walked away knowing that before the end of the week, he was going to be in her bed. He did. He just did. She was too overly anxious. Same thing with brothers. I've seen you all too in Uncle Bobby's again, trying to date and just saying some of the craziest ish, like, women really love me. I'm all that. And you can tell the brother is nervous. And so when you're nervous, you say a whole lot of nothing. Sip your coffee, sip your tea, sit with one another. Watch the body language, watch how they treat the people around them, watch the things that they're talking about. Relationships aren't working nowadays because you all spend so much time texting. When Mr. Sanders and I began dating, he would call me every morning. How are you doing? Have a great day at work. And then he would text me throughout the day. And then he would call me in the evening. The dude was so different. That's why when he has his shenanigans, I don't, I fuss. But I'm not going anywhere. This is where the buck stops for me, because he is really the perfect gentleman for me and what I wanted in my life. Right. He used to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning because he spent a lot of time. We didn't live together, but he would spend a lot of time. I'd spend a lot of time with him. He'd spend a lot of time with me. And so one particular day I came over to his house and it was at 1 o'clock in the morning. I woke up and I was hungry, and he jumped up and he said, what do you want? And he made me cornbread and so. And I was like, oh, this dude is in love. This dude is in love. I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. It's just the things. Let me ask him for cornbread now. He'll be like, girl, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Go back to sleep. I'm not doing that. I was doing that when I was trying to get to you, kind of thing, But just be mindful as you're dating. Choose coffee shops, right? Stop asking for things like, really? Margaret says she's never been to Uncle Bobby. Stop asking for things like a 5-star restaurant. The man is getting to know you. He's not marrying you. I've heard women say things like, well, you got to do my hair and do my nails. Stop the foolishness, please. Stop the foolishness. This is not how we do things. And what it tells the man is that he's got to spend all this money on you in order just to say hello. And look, we're always looking for what the man wants to bring to the table. What are you bringing to the table? What are you What do you have? What is in your Rolodex that says you're someone worth having and someone being in a family with and someone, taken to the next level? It can't just be, he got to take care of me. I don't know why I'm going down this pathway, but it needs to happen, y'all, because relationships are really struggling because there's these ridiculous asks of folks. You first date should be in a park somewhere where you're around a bunch of people, a bookshop, or a coffee. Coffee. That's it. The man is getting to know you. He's not trying to marry you on the first date. And so we come up with these horrible things. And be yourself. Be yourself. I've heard men say over and over again, all kinds of men, I don't like the whole bunch of makeup. I don't like the this. We gonna do what we need to do. This is 2020 something something. I was like, all right, y'all go ahead. Y'all go ahead. Because I don't know what to tell you. If when I met my husband, I was wearing braids, and I just wanted to get rid of them because it was thinning up my hair in the top. And he said, "Take them off. I think you have a pretty face." I took my braids off, and he was like, he loved it. He said, "You could really go bald." Like he's encouraging me, whatever it is that I want to do. However, that's the kind of relationship you want to be in. Now, somebody's telling you what you should wear, how you should dress, where you should go. If it works for you, beautiful. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay too. But you choose and then you stick with what you've chosen because this is what you walked into and said, this is what I want to do. I met a woman, again, in Uncle Bobby's. Uncle Bobby's was my spot, who said she goes nowhere without her husband's permission. She was talking to somebody else. And my head popped up. And before I could say anything, there's a voice in my head that says, shut your mouth. That's her relationship. That's how she chooses that she wants to live. Nobody tells her, this is what she wants, and I think she said it because I was talking about traveling across the country, and she's like, oh my God, I don't want to, my husband would never let me. And I'm telling you, it took every corpuscle to not say anything because I had to recognize that what worked for me didn't work for somebody else. And our relationship worked because people say, your husband lets you go across the country. And my husband is the first one to say, babe, what is it that you want to do? Go do it. I'll be here. We talk every morning. We talk all through the time as I'm traveling across the country. I cook before I leave. He don't eat none of it though because he wants bean pies and pizzas, all the things he can't eat when I'm home because I want to make sure that he eats healthy, make the smoothies, whatever. So your relationships are your relationships. But if you don't want people to judge you, then there's just certain things you shouldn't share on social media. No one knew my husband. Very few people knew who my husband was. He has no social media presence until a week before we got married. That was the first time I showed. They were like, people thought I didn't have a relationship. But if it works for you that you're in a relationship and you want to share that person with everybody, then stand 10 toes down on that, right? But if you're going from relationship to relationship to relationship, and every 5 months is here's my new boo, Mr. could have been 10 different people. Y'all wouldn't have known. Be smart is what I'm saying. Be smart about how you choose to share in these spaces. Don't give too much information to the people that you're dating right away, male or female, right? Men or women. Just take your time. Just take your time. Find your rhythm, take your time. One of the things my husband loved about me was that I wasn't sticking up underneath him every day. We were in rooms together in those 5 years and nobody knew because he wasn't sticking up underneath me. I was running talking to people. He was walking around talking to people. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. And for 5 years, I quietly dated him. For 5 years, we took our time. We had one major argument in those 5 years. And today, I looked up, it's been 20 years that we've known each other, 10 years married, 15 years dating. Right? So take your time. There's no rush because when the rubber meets the road, when the ish hits the fan, you want to be with somebody who's going to be with you, who is going to look at you and go, you were wrong as hell, but okay, let's figure this out. That's the part that's important in all of this. But if you keep running around this one and that one and that one and that one, and oh my God, I can't figure it out, and oh my God, take your time. There is no rush. And when you feel like you're in a rush to do something, it spreads. People, he can feel it, she can feel it, they can feel it. When you're desperate to get married, desperate to do this, desperate to do that. I didn't give a ratatouille. I was like, all right. Moving right along. We get married, we get married. We don't get married, we're gonna get married. And secretly, I loved him enough because I had said to him in the very beginning, I don't want to get married again. He said, I don't want to get married again either. We both lied. And here we are, right? So do what works for you, but choose your sanity. Don't give away so much so quickly, and then you get so disappointed because you shared all the stuff. Talk about, as you get into the relationship, talk about, what your proclivities are. Are there certain things that you love to do? My husband cannot understand why I love being in the gym so much, but being in the gym is saving my life, right? And I can't run. I don't like to run. I think running is hard on my joints, but I will lift the hell out of some weights and press somebody into infinity. That's just me. He loves concerts and he loves building robots and he loves building underwater things, and he's got a bunch of ish all over the place, and I had to navigate around that. So figure out what that looks like for you and then make it work. Okay? Um Laura says, "Okay, we're getting away," but it's true, right? I didn't, and it was not my intention to go there because Cherie and I are going to talk about something else tomorrow. But when you're on that first date, y'all, stop sharing so much of yourself. And if you have a reputation for sleeping with Lottie Dottie and everybody, right now, you might be enjoying your life and going, this is my life. This is who I am. I don't care what people think. But as you get older and realize everybody else around you is getting married and starting families, and you're still single, trying to mingle. Do you know how many 65-year-olds I have met who said, oh my God, if I had only just listened. Their friends were married. Oh, I ain't got time for that. I'm too busy being cute. I'm too busy living my best life. I'm too busy betting this one and betting that one. And how many married men they've slept with. And how many said, not to mention the damage that it does to your body. Right? Let's be clear. Our vaginas are not designed to take in everything. It just isn't. So there we are. Monica says, these young people with all this pretentious nonsense, dating is learning each other and finding out if you really like each other. Take your time to really see what this person is all about. My youngest son is dating and has been dating now for about a year. And I said, I picked him. He came to visit because we had a birthday party for Repeat on Sunday. And we're in the car. I turned off the radio. I picked him up from the train station and we talked the 2 hours, that we were driving. And I said, are you ready to say that this is a relationship? He was like, no. He was like, still trying to get to know. Still trying to figure it out. I'm in no rush. He said, I've seen my brother. My brother, dated his wife for a few years when he had to move to Texas for Apple to work for Apple in their main office. She moved with him. She went through all of the stuff with him. They bought a house together, all the 9 yards. And then they got married right in the middle of COVID. He said, I watched all of it and I watched the babies coming. He said, Mommy, I am still under 30. I don't even know if I want a dog, much less a child. And it was such a revealing, relaxing conversation with him. He said, I am absolutely learning what I want, what I don't want, and will not allow anyone to push me into the direction that, I may not want to go in. The thing about my youngest son is when I talk to him, I feel like I'm talking to myself. I don't say that to him, but he's definitely someone not to be played with. He knows what he wants, makes up his mind. And he shared something with me and I was like, ah! And then when we were at the birthday party, I didn't know he shared it with his brother, but you know how I knew? His brother started screaming, shut up! Oh my God, I love you, bro. I love you. Thank you. And I was just watching them and I'm going, thank God they're close. And they were talking and laughing. He said, I'm so proud of you. I told you were going to do this thing, blah, 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 blah. And they encourage one another. We have to be in a space where, so my children really work well together. And their friends, they all work well together. And the children from the other marriages or the other relationships, they all come together. It's a beautiful thing to see. But we, the adults, had to create the space around them so that they would be okay as they were growing up. Everybody went on vacation together. One graduated from high school, everybody came. One graduated from college, everybody came. One getting married, everybody came. And that's what we do. You would think we were the Mormon family, but we understood as adults that the children mattered more than our feelings. Oh, Lord, I'm going down a path here and I don't know why. This must be for somebody to hear. Right? So it's important. It's absolutely important. Repeat had a birthday party. Everybody was there. We were just having ourselves a wonderful time, running up and down the whole length of the zoo. Just having my grandchildren love the zoo. So we chose to have a birthday party for them. My husband came. My ex-husband came. His current wife came. We are all sitting there talking to one another and making sure that the children are okay as we're talking to one another as a family. If you harm one, you harm us all. That's just how we navigate. It's not, oh my God, you're divorced. Why is it that so and so has to be invited? You're already divorced. That tells of an insecurity inside of you, not about the person that's coming to the birthday party or to the whatever it is. It's important that the children feel like they have their whole nuclear family together, not about us, the adults who can't get ourselves together. It's important. So you starting to date, and if you're dating, and here's the other thing, men and women, if you're dating and people tell you who they are by their behaviors, why you jump into the marriage and then complain about the very behaviors that you saw while you were dating? Why? Why is that? Why is that? In our marriage, we cook. I cook. I cook. I cook. I'm the Don Dada cook in my house. I made my first meal when I was 9 years old. I don't know too many people that can cook better than I can. But then Mr. decides if I'm going to cook, he's going to do the dishes and make sure everything is clean in the kitchen. We navigate that stuff. There are men who are like, you cook and clean. If that works for you in your relationship, boom, go. Do what you have to do. But if it doesn't work for you, sit down and gently have the conversation. If you decide that you want to cook and clean, that's up to you too. You see where I'm getting? Every relationship is different, and we need to stop looking on social media or wherever the hell we're getting our conversations from and putting that in our, well, so and so did such and such. That is a death knell to your relationship, because your husband or your wife is different from everything else that's going on. And I'm telling you, the rubber will meet the road, and it has, if you stay married or in a relationship long enough. I was with Denise yesterday, and she was telling me about a woman, and I talked about it in a video, right? And she and her husband had it all. He had a thriving business. She had a great job. They bought a big, beautiful house. The children were in private school. All was well. And she said, all of a sudden, her husband's business started to tank, because that's life. It ebbs and flows. And if you don't learn how to pivot, life will pivot you, right? So the business started to do badly, and then the husband lost his business. She's like, all right, don't worry about it, babe. I got you. You continue to do what you have to do. We'll figure it out. And then she lost her job. And then the bills didn't stop coming. So they had to take the children out of private. They took the children out of private school first, and then they kept trying to figure it out, but the bills kept coming. No job on either side. They're both trying to find something else to continue the lifestyle that they had become accustomed to. Well, mortgage foreclosure. They had to sell the house. In the middle of that, they began to fight so much, they went into the process of a divorce. Do you see what I'm saying? So life can and will happen. I don't know anyone who's been in a long-term relationship or married for a long time that has not gone through hell and back. I promise you. I promise you. It's just a lot going on out here, and we have to have temperance and patience with each other. And if you decide, because my husband and I, not the first time we've been married, if you decide the marriage isn't working, don't suck salt through a wooden spoon. Look at your profit margin, your losses. Is this what I want to do for the next 20 years of my life? If it's not what you want to do, then it's okay. Don't let anybody shame you into sticking around and sitting with something that does not work for you. It's okay. It's okay. You will live. You absolutely will live. So I promise you, I was not planning to go down this rabbit hole, but I've seen too many relationships. I've seen too many, well, we make enough money together. We make millions of dollars. So this would be a match made in heaven. Bruh, if you don't have the same core values, she could make $2.3 million. You could make $5 million a year. You pull it all together, but you don't like each other. She doesn't like the way you do things a certain way. You don't like the way she does things a certain way, but you're putting on a front because, it's okay to look like you're successful. But what about the love? What about the things that you need when you need it? right? What if one of you gets sick or both of you get sick? That happened with John and I. He's sick and almost died. I had asphyxiation and almost died. Right now, I've got some medical issues going on. He's going to sit right beside me until we figure out what we got to do, because that's what couples do. But you can't be so stiff-necked and go, oh my God, you're sick again. Oh my God. And then you want to wait until you're 99 and a half, talk about I need somebody to settle down with because you're looking for a nursemaid. That doesn't work either. You literally have to spend the time to get to know someone and figure out what it is that you want to do. Because when life happens, you want to have somebody who is going to be there for you. If you're making a ton of money and all of a sudden the money dries up and you only have $30 to do what you need to do for the week to eat, how are you going to be able to figure it out? How with all the stuff that's going on around the country right now, and we are all talking about it. People are out here selling soap and cooked meat. Black men are out here in the corners, roasting meat so that they can sell, so they can make some money, right? Women are sitting outside. I passed one woman near Lindley Avenue. She had outside of her porch, she had all the stuff that was inside of her house. She said, I'm not using this stuff anymore. I figured I could sell it and make a couple dollars. People are struggling out here. And so if your moniker is, well, we've got to always be wealthy, and we've got to always be in certain spaces, and we've got to always, we got to visit the continent, and it's not Thursday, child, but I'm telling you, Dennis, I'm here and I'm going to stick with it. We've got to always, we want to show that we're able to go to Spain and to Greece and to blah, 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 blah. And we put these things out in the ether. But we don't talk about when life really hits us. And there are plenty of people. I just talked to a brother the other day who said he was not doing well and he had no one to support him, but he's married. So there are folks who have this whole thing. My husband has to look a certain way. My husband has to make a certain amount of money. Then why did you get married? Same thing when I was on the radio station with so many women, men would call and say, this is the first time I have felt comfortable to say my wife stuck a thing in my eye and blinded me because I was divorcing her because she was so nasty and vicious and violent all the time. And the courts don't give me what I need. I can't tell you how many men I've had conversations with about child support and how, the women, if the man has a child living with them, the women go into court and cry and say they can't afford blah, 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 blah. And the court is lenient with them. But let the man go in and say, and don't get me wrong, this is not for the people who are deadbeat. Don't get me wrong. Don't come at me and say, well, Andrea, you don't even know. Because been divorced, got child support. I understand how the system works. Wrote a whole brief. The judge thought I was the lawyer, that I had a lawyer write it. It was me. But you got to think about the children. You got to think about one another. And so when the marriages are splitting up, you got to make sure that there's fairness in child support. You can't expect one person to pay everything and the other person says, well, And there have been people, men in particular, who have just walked away because they said they couldn't see their children, even though they were paying X amount of money in child support. There were men who don't want to pay child support, so they just disappear. Women who don't want to pay child support, so they disappear, and then they show up when the children are in college. Oh, I'm your mother. I need blah 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 blah. No, it don't work that way. It does not work that way. So you have to be mindful about who you're getting in relationship with. You have to be mindful about who you are. Who are you? What do you bring into this thing? Because if it's all about where you can travel, if it's all about the money, if it's all about the kind of car, you're done. You are absolutely done. Because when the ish hits the fan and it doesn't look pretty, hey, what am I going to tell my friends? What do you mean? What are you going to tell your friends? It's okay. Life is life. And so many people sit in these things and they struggle unnecessarily because they're afraid of what people are going to say. And yes, I'm going in between vernacular and the standard Queen's English, but I get you. You get what I'm saying, right? And if you get into a relationship with someone and they already have children, but they don't see the children or support the children, run like hell. I don't care what excuse they give you, right? I have said to men who have not been, and men who will continue to try, because you hear me talking about men, because it's usually on their side where they don't get to see their children after they're paying child support, right? You don't get to see your child, you hold on. You when the child gets to a certain age and have their own cell phone, you text, how are you doing? I love you. Please don't get into your mother is an itch and all that other stuff, because it only makes the child feel like they have to choose. I look forward to a time when I can see you. If you need some money as they get older, you need something, make sure, even though the mom won't let you see, because the mom will move, or you don't have any rights to the children, blah, 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 blah. But that child needs to see some part of your presence in some way, shape, or form. And as they get older, do you know how many damaged boys and girls that are out here? My father never came. My father was a deadbeat. My mama said my daddy. And women, stop, stop, stop. Children do not need to know about adult business. Don't do it. Do not do it, because the children will figure it out for themselves. Why am I on this path for a half an hour? I was just going to do the morning motivation and move on about my business, but I always follow my gut. Somebody is listening that needed to hear this morning. You are. And so if there's something that's niggling in the back of your mind that feels, it's not quite, but I really just want to get married and have to, back up. We say, God, if this person isn't right for me, let me know. And then God shows you, and then you go, well, God, show me something else. And then God shows you something else. You go, well, maybe this not quite the thing I was looking for. And you tell yourselves, we choose our joys and our sorrows long before we experience them. Right? So that's where I am. Joanne says the best way to quote, sometimes the best way to stop a problem is to stop participating in it. But it's, but Joanne, when they get to the space where what are people going to say? I put them up on social media. What are they going to do? People are going to talk about me. All the things. We worry too much about what people think. We do. We do. I want you all to recognize that this hairstyle that I have is an example. I don't see another soul wearing it. And Sharita is like, you are brave as hell. I was like, yeah, because I just wanted something different. I didn't want to do palm curls forever. My hair is long, and the palm curls were just not holding, and blah, 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 blah. This holds for a few weeks. I can go and do what I'm supposed to do. And it's African threading, and it's a part of my culture, and it makes me feel like I don't have to subscribe to permed hair, pressed hair, whatever the thing is, right? And so there are people who would have been like, they're not going to say it to me because they already know. Oh my God, I can't believe she did that with her hair. What kind of foolishness? But then they're secretly going, that is nice though. Y'all, I don't, we're going to work it out. I'm going to cover some of the news. Monica says, exactly. A blended family can work and be wonderful. It's about the children. Put all of those old feelings aside and see how it will enrich your children. And sometimes there are children who come into the blended family that are just not quite ready. I don't know the heck. My father married you, or my mama married you. I don't want no parts of this, and blah, 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 blah. And you, as the two consenting adults that decided to come together, have to sit and figure out exactly how you navigate this, because it's not going to be pretty. And sometimes the grown behind children like to show their grown behind tails. And you have to come together as one accord. I've heard women say they can't deal because men, what my mama said, and my mama this, and my mama, then you should have married your mama then. Mama is everything, right? And so that's a part of the issue too. When my son and daughter-in-law have discussions, disagreements, I tell them, I say, y'all don't call me, figure it out. And they figured it out. At first they were offended, but I was like, no, I am not always going to be here. You all figure it out. I go back and everybody, they in each other's face, lovey-dovey. I was like, see, y'all, not falling for the okie doke. And when you're in relationship, you won't always get along. It won't always feel wonderful. Somebody will have a good day. Somebody will have a bad day. But my husband and I, because my daughter-in-law said, but you and your husband, I said, I married a unicorn and I'm a unicorn. We're just different people. And we've been married before. So we understand what we're going to deal with and what we won't deal with. And that's okay. You're getting there in your own marriage, because that's what marriage is. You learn more and more about each other, and you pivot and you grow and you change as you move along. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So Tamara says, what are you going to tell your friends? Heck, some are experiencing the same thing. Folk just don't always talk about it. Absolutely. Alexandra says, what people have to say or think about me is none of my business. I've learned this over the years. Listen, I think I was 4 years old when I got that. Like, my mom was like, what is wrong? Why are you so different? I don't know. How many people do you know would jump in an F-16 fighter jet and take off into the atmosphere? How many people do you know that would pull a plane and travel across the country 5 times? Just be your authentic self. And that's the other problem. If you're not being your authentic self and you're putting on airs to fit into a lifestyle that you think the person that you're interested in wants to see, you're going to get into the relationship and the marriage and be miserable because you put on airs and pretended to be something that you were not. And so when you can't help but to be yourself over time, this is what happens. This is what happens. So I'm gonna leave it alone. It's 7:06. We're gonna cover some news. I hope you got something from this. This was not my plan, but I pray that you got something from this. Okay. Let's see. So, y'all started boycotting Disney. And you were like, we just go shut you down and blah, 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 blah. And Disney turned around and said, oh, okay. We're going to bring Jimmy Kimmel back online. But guess what we're getting ready to do? We're going to raise the cost of your membership. So starting October 26th, you are going to, everything is increased by $2. Hulu is increased by $2. Disney Plus, Hulu Plus HBO, everything, every one of the plans. Most of them went up from $20, $2, but 16, 17, 17. Yeah, most of them went up $2 because I'm looking here now. So they were like, we're going to get our money back. The people who remain and the people who come back, your membership is going to think $2 times. Let me see. Disney latest price hikes come after Disney and Hulu, Disney Plus and Hulu, 183 million subscriptions during the second quarter of this year. $2 times $183 million. You see, they're getting their money back. So y'all have to figure out, all right, well, if you're going to do this, we're not coming back. And the people who are there are going to be like, well, you added more money to my thing. And $2 may not seem like much, but in the grand scheme of things, it all adds up, right? So that's what they're saying. During an so this was written by The Street. Disney's new price increases for Disney Plus may have unintended consequences. As prices go up, many consumers have recently been ditching paid streaming services. That is also happening. According to a recent survey from digital security firm All About Cookies, 84% of people have canceled a streaming subscription in the past, and 44% of the survey's respondents said that the price increases pushed them to make this decision. The survey also found that 42% of Americans now watch TV through free streaming services like Tubi, etc., signaling growing competition for paid streaming platforms. Price is certainly one of the most important factors when people choose streaming subscriptions, said Yukai, a professor of cybersecurity at the College of Computing at Michigan Tech in the survey. However, the situation is dynamic and user preferences vary widely. Some may prioritize the convenience and flexibility of streaming services, while others may reconsider the value proposition as costs rise. Here's the other thing that they're doing. You got the streaming service and it was just straight through. You got a movie, the movie was going straight through. Now they're telling you that, if you want to watch it without ads, you have to pay extra money. They're getting very creative out here. So while you thought you were getting rid of Comcast and Verizon and the $100 and something you were paying, the streaming services actually add up to more. This plus this, that plus that, that plus that. And we have to figure out how we're going to navigate this thing because, yeah, that's where we are with that. Okay, so that's happening. I'm going to the president because there's a lot to cover about him. In Shenzhen, China, authorities told 400,000 people they needed to leave their homes before super typhoon Ragasa arrived, making it one of China's largest evacuations recently. I believe that the typhoon hit last night, so I don't even know. We'll figure out this morning what happened. They opened emergency shelters across Guangdong province as the storm approached on Tuesday. The winds were up to about 167 miles per hour, the fastest on Earth this year. Forecasters warned that storm surges could be more than 3 meters high, threatening anyone living by the sea. So there's that. So I'm going to go back and take a look at what happened to the super typhoon, which reaches the limits of Earth power. We keep saying that global warming is not a thing. We keep acting as if, we're just living our best lives. These gasoline cars, all of us are complicit. And so we have to be very mindful, because we want to leave Earth a place where our children, our grandchildren, and our great, 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 great grandchildren, I don't think we're going to make it those at some point, Earth, because I think those who have been doing their research and beating the drum and warning us for decades, the ice polar caps are melting, all the things that we need to, the sea is rising. Whenever it rains now, we have flash flood everywhere. You can't live in a space and any place on earth where it's just flooding all the diggity dang time. And every year the flash floodings have gotten worse. Every year the fires have gotten worse, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see there. All right, now let me go to the president. Whew. A Florida jury on Tuesday found Ryan Ruth guilty of an assassination attempt against then presidential candidate Donald Trump. Ruth represented himself in the trial. He was found guilty of all 5 charges, which included attempted assassination of a major presidential candidate and assaulting a federal officer. He was arrested in September 2024 at Mr. Trump's golf course. That was CBSNews.com, which, by the way, had a conversation with, because you hear me say I'm always checking on the inside. I've got folks on the inside at the federal level, and they told me that the 65 Democrats came together to talk about something that they were doing to make life, to challenge what was going on in the Trump administration, and not one news group showed up. It wasn't covered anywhere in the news. So there are things happening around the country right now that's not being covered by CBS, ABC. No, they said no, not one news person, not one person showed up. And so the general public feels like the Democrats are doing absolutely nothing, when in fact nothing they're doing is being covered. So you literally have to have somebody who's willing to have the conversation on air with you for you to recognize what's going on. I did have a conversation too about why so many Democrats voted for the Charlie Kirk day of mourning in October, which is the same day of George Floyd's birthday. What I got back was, and don't shoot the messenger, what I got back was the Democrats felt that somebody had to lower the temperature at the federal level, that somebody had to be able to say, we're going to work together. Those who said that they did not want to vote for this, and there were many of them quietly, said that if they didn't vote for it, then they were going to be targeted, and felt like they just, was only going to make things worse, and fingers were going to be pointed at them about, making the temperature worse in the light of Charlie Kirk's killing. And then this person said to me, let me say this to you. We are trying to fight hate with peacefulness. We are trying to fight all of this visceral behavior by trying to be calm and peaceful ourselves. And so while the Congressional Black Caucus is meeting this week, and there are no politicians in town this week, Hakeem Jeffries has reached out and said everybody needs to be back next week. So lots going on in these Wakandan streets. Of course, I'm going to hold on to the folks who tell me these things on the condition of anonymity, because they're on the inside having dialogue. All right, so let's go back to the news. Good morning, Laverne. Good morning, my darling. Nexstar Media Group said Tuesday that the ABC station it owns and partners will not resume airing Jimmy Kimmel Live, even as Disney brings the program back nationally. We made a decision last week to preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live following what ABC referred to as Mr. Kimmel's ill-timed and insensitive comments at a critical time in our national discourse, the company said in a news release. We stand by that decision pending assurance that all parties are committed to fostering an environment of respectful, constructive dialogue in the markets we serve. Nexstar's announcement adds to Sinclair, another major local TV operator, which said Monday that it would not air Kimmel's show. Together, Nexstar and Sinclair account for about 70 ABC affiliates, meaning Kimmel's return will not be available over broadcast to tens of millions in the United States. So Nexstar and Sinclair were like, all right, we see you bringing him back, but we're not going to put him in these 10 million markets. So so you see the battle that's happening, y'all. I need you to decide. We have to make some decisions as a people. What are we going to do? Okay, so that was NBC Philadelphia. Former Vice President Kamala Harris told Good Morning America on Tuesday that she does regret not personally challenging former President Joe Biden's decision to run for re-election. In an interview with Good Morning America co-anchor Michael Strahan, Harris said it was reckless of her not to raise her concerns with Biden choosing to run for re-election. Do you not regret not voicing your opinion in that moment? Strahan asked Harris, who wrote in her campaign memoir, 107 Days, out Tuesday, that the re-election decision was Joe and Jill Biden's to make. Yes, Harris said, and I actually have reflected on this and I've written about that. You could tell from watching body language that Jill Biden and Harris, that they were just not getting along. I also learned yesterday that the interview I did with President Joe Biden is in that book. She wrote about it. I said, Lord Jesus, here we go. So there's that. And that was written by abcnews.go.com. President Trump said on Tuesday that he won't meet with Democratic leaders in Congress until they become realistic with their demands in the ongoing fight over funding the government, with a deadline of October 1st quickly approaching. Early Tuesday morning, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries confirmed that a meeting was set to take place this week in the Oval Office. But in a post on Truth Social soon after, the president called off the gathering, at least for now. After reviewing the details of the unserious and ridiculous demands being made by the minority radical left Democrats in return for their votes to keep our thriving country open, I have decided that no meeting with their congressional leaders could possibly be productive, Mr. Trump said. This was again CBSNews.com. President Donald Trump delivered a combative speech to the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday morning, criticizing the international body while touting the work of his administration. Trump spared no criticism, beginning with his predecessor, former President Joe Biden, before taking aim at world leaders on everything from migration to the Russia-Ukraine war. 1 year ago, our country was in deep trouble, but today, just 8 months into my administration, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. Oh my God. And there's no other country even close, he said at the top of his remarks. The president then turned his attention to the United Nations, accusing the organization of ignoring conflicts around the world and that he helped solve and not living up to its promise. What is the purpose of the United Nations? Trump asked. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve a war. This was written by 6abc.com. I began looking up Estonia. The Russian MiGs have been seen flying in Estonia's airspace, which is right next to, the only thing that separates Estonia from Russia is a river. And there's another country to the left of it, and Estonia is made up of all these different islands with one big space in between. The United Nations sent their planes to escort the MiGs out of the airspace, and said they didn't shoot them down because they didn't want to cause more of an escalation in the process. Yes, I was doing my research and going through all of that stuff in the early this morning, because I fell asleep early. And so you can see, and then Russia has also been flying over Poland's airspace, but Poland shot those MiGs down. So Poland keeps saying to the United Nations, if we're going to keep doing this, because we've seen war, we've been a part of war, we don't like what war is, but they keep taunting us, we've got to do something. If you all don't stand behind us, then what can we do? So, the president of the United States just kindly reminded the United Nations, you all keep sending these strongly worded letters, but you're not doing anything. In other words, he said, "Look, if you buck," right? And Poland said the same thing. We're shooting down these MiGs, but at some point there's going to be some retaliation. What is NATO willing to do to help us? Estonia got Estonia does not have their own warplanes. right? Because they declared their independence in 1991 and have just been trying to work through their free markets from 2004. So they're really new, right, in being independent, and they need support. They joined NATO so that they could have some support. Whoo, child, it's a lot. It's a lot. Um, let's see. Joanne says, how is it lowering the temperature in the country? It seems like it's helping to ramp it up. It took many years for them to agree on the MLK holiday. Yeah, they're trying to figure it out, but they pouted and pontificated for so long that folks are no longer paying attention to them. And the thing that I said to my insider in Washington was, folks are leaving the Democratic Party and becoming independent. And the person said, well, look, we're all afraid at this point. There are folks, their children are like, how do we leave the country? Where can we go? And the person said to me, the problem with having a United States passport at this point is because we're in the United States, and the countries don't want anyone with any United States citizen there. They believe that we will come to their countries and act badly. And so they don't want us. They don't want us based on everything that is going on. So the conversation was, if you are someone who has dual citizenship, if you're someone who has the ability to gain citizenship somewhere else, do that, because those passports will help you more than having a United States passport. So all the stuff that's going on in this country, all the things that have been taking place, people are watching us and going, why are we? I'm going to leave that alone. Okay. Alexandria says, and now this, after cuts to food stamps, Trump administration ends government's annual report on hunger in America. The USDA says the report has become over politicized and rife with inaccuracies. So all the information that we would normally get to let us know what is going on, what's happening with people, it's now becoming word of mouth. Like I did yesterday, I'm seeing way too many people on the streets selling things in their homes, trying to cook meats to survive. It's a lot. There's a lot going on out here, and it's intentional. We're literally being cut off from the information that we would normally have and that we would need. So for instance, 13 young Black people disappeared in Houston, Texas. Bodies found in river, da, 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 da. It's not being reported anywhere. And so we now have to depend on what people are saying in social media, but your social media is now being monitored. Do you see where this is going? Do you see where this is going? What the hell are we going to do? And quite frankly, most people don't have access to move to another country because the countries are saying, if you want to come, you have to have a certain amount of money in the bank. You have to come and blah, 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 blah. And that money in the bank should have been there 6 months or more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They are not playing. So they're not accepting just anything. So some people who are born in other places that have United States citizen passports can go back to their country of birth and say, look, this, let a sister in, let a brother in, because, this is what we're going on. Laura says he is delusional. Practically everything he says was a lie. The fact checkers pointed this out as he spoke. But what you don't think that what he's saying is deliberate? I think he's less delusional than people believe. But I'm going to leave it alone. Andrea says, I picked up my copy of 107 Days yesterday. Kamala will be at the Met on Thursday. Thank you for sharing that, Andrea, because even I didn't know that. But I try to stay out of those things, Y'all go ahead. I cannot. It's just too much. I try to manage as best as I can with all the things that are going on. But thank you for making us aware. President Donald Trump is facing widespread backlash from medical experts over his comments linking Tylenol used in pregnancy to autism, per Newsweek. Trump pushed the unproven claims during Monday's September 22nd White House briefing, during which he urged the women to avoid taking Tylenol or acetaminophen during the entire pregnancy, calling it very dangerous to the women's health. But offering no evidence to support his comments, the president further claimed that the FDA would begin warning doctors about a potential link between acetaminophen and autism, another claim that remains unproven. Acetaminophen is the most commonly recommended pain reliever during pregnancy. Taking Tylenol is not good, Trump said on Monday. I'll say it, it's not good. This was www.BINN News. Oh, Black Information News Network. Critical thinking is at an all-time low. The folks in this country are very aware that there's a whole swath, well over 100 million people that believe everything that is said by our president. This is not accidental. It's not coinky dinky. So if you don't know how to research and ask questions for yourself, if you don't know how to figure this out, we're going to spend a lot of time online arguing about who said what. Nope. Do your research, stay quiet, and move on. Okay? Figure out what you need to do and how you need to do it. Child. As President Donald Trump rambled and ad-libbed through an announcement meant to caution pregnant women about the possible links between the use of Tylenol and autism in children, his comments went beyond the available scientific evidence and even the language of his own health department. He made it clear he was aware he was at times speaking for himself. You know, I am making these statements from me, he said at one point. I'm not making them from these doctors because when they talk about different results, different studies, I talk a lot about common sense. Trump's remarks deviated from the more measured guidance offered by his health agencies in subsequent news releases and op-eds. Don't take Tylenol, he boomed multiple times during the hour-long event on Tuesday. Here's the thing. They're considering opening up a Trump pharmacy where people can go and just buy their prescriptions from this pharmacy with his name attached to it because the drugs companies are charging way too much money. Telling you. I'm telling you. Okay. All right. Thanks to a single voice speaking up, a potential school attack was prevented, according to a nonprofit created after the tragic Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. Police in Atherton, California were contacted by the nonprofit Sandy Hook Promise on September 10th, who claimed they received a tip that a former student at an area high school had posted concerning content to Instagram referencing the school. Police locked down the Menlo Atherton High School campus in addition to a nearby middle school for an hour until the student was located. The investigation is ongoing. People say a mother is making it her life's mission to prevent tragedy. Nicole Hockley's son Dylan was one of the 20 children killed in 2012 at the Sandy Hook Elementary School student shooting. Hockley co-founded the nonprofit Sandy Hook Promise, a free resource that teaches students how to recognize warning signs of violence and offers an anonymous reporting system. This was 6abc.com. Whew. Secret Service agents believe they have cracked a plot that could have crippled the telecommunications network and law enforcement functions in the nation's largest city as more than 150 world leaders descend this week on New York, officials said on Tuesday. The potential for disruption to our country's telecommunications posed by this network of devices cannot be overstated, Secret Service Director Sean Curran said in a statement. Agents were first tipped off last spring, and officials believe the plot is connected to the Chinese government, according to one law enforcement source briefed on the probe. This was abcnews.com. Oh, child. Local news. Philadelphia will get 14 new state historical markers in the coming year, adding to more than 300 signs that have been placed in the city by the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission since the commemorative program started in the 1940s. PHMC staff voted on Thursday to approve 45 new historical markers statewide, choosing the first crop of new plaques to be planned since the program went into a two-year hiatus. Markers are approved based on public nominations reviewed by a panel of historical experts brought together by PHMC. This is fullyvoiced.com. Earlier this year, state lawmakers passed legislation that makes school breakfast available to all students, regardless of their household income. Amy Beam, director of the Nutrition Program Work Group at Delaware's Department of Education, said the law ensures equal access to breakfast across all public schools. The Universal Breakfast Law doesn't just help low-income families, it covers everyone, including middle and upper-income students who would otherwise pay out of pocket. Funding for the program comes largely from federal reimbursements through the U.S. Department of Agriculture, but the state is stepping in to cover the gap for any of the 83 schools that need more support. Good for them. WHYY.org. An innocent man who spent 38 years behind bars in California was awarded $25 million in what his lawyers called the largest wrongful conviction settlement in state history. The settlement was reached in August, according to court documents made public on Monday. Maurice Hastings, 72, was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole in connection with the 1983 sexual assault and murder of Roberta Widdemeyer, who was killed by a single gunshot to the head. The lawsuit accused 2 Inglewood Police Department officers and the Los Angeles District Attorney investigator at the time of framing Hastings. Jesus be offense. This is written by the Associated Press News. One last one. Dozens gathered at the Kappa Alpha Psi Achievement Center in Germantown over the weekend to celebrate the 100th birthday of Eugene Richardson Jr. Richardson is one of 4 surviving Tuskegee Airmen who live in the Philadelphia region. He was born in Toledo, Ohio, but resided in Camden when he became a pre-aviation cadet in the Army Air Corps. Richardson left his home in Camden for Tuskegee University in Alabama, where he completed combat training in 1945. He was a 1951 initiate of the Lambda chapter of the fraternity. Many brothers and their family members from across the region celebrated his life and achievements on Sunday. I'm really flattered and happy about it, Richardson said. Having so many brothers around and so great of them to come out, that's just what brotherhood does for you. Richardson said being a Tuskegee Airman was an important part of his life, and it opened a lot of doors for him. He has spoken at schools and various other organizations about his life experiences. Happy 100th birthday, sir. Whoo, child. Lord, 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 Lord. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Laverne says people can't even afford to leave their city or state, let alone go to another country. Marguerite said he is extremely smart. Everything said is a distraction to what is happening under our noses. Dennis says you can't go to the circus and not expect to see the clown. You are so funny. Andrea says whether he writes it, tweets it, or speaks it. Once he does, it's part of the public historical record. Without fact checkers, media, or anyone else to officially refute it, it becomes the truth. Absolutely. It becomes, in quotation. Edgar Allan Poe says, believe only half of what you see and none of what you hear. Absolutely. Laverne says, there are things doctors don't know and things they won't tell us. That is true. There does seem to be an epidemic of autism these days. Just like cancer, there seems to be an epidemic lately. Why, though? That is true, Laverne. There is something happening here, but what we're not going to do is unilaterally throw it on Tylenol, though. We will we will figure out whether this is true or not. We have to do the research. Alexandra says it has to do with the pharmaceutical company he has financial ties to. Tylenol was invented in the 1950s. Autism was first acknowledged medically in 1911. It's another grift for him. Joanne says they're worrying about Tylenol being deadly, but ignoring guns. You know, Joanne, when those babies died at Sandy Hook and they didn't change the gun laws, yeah, that's when I was like, yeah, we're not, yeah. Even the babies don't matter. Alexandra says at Laverne Cheeseborough, it could be due to the crack epidemic. A family member has 3 children, all on the autism spectrum. Her mother was a drug addict on crack. It could be to anything. There's something happening here. They've linked it to all sorts of things. But until somebody who has done the scientific research actually comes out and says, this is what it is, we're just only making assumptions at this point. Listen, y'all, gotta go to the gym. This episode of Mornings with Mova is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Laverne says, right, it's like he's trying to put the makers of Tylenol out of business too. I only monitor Tylenol for my liver. Bye, everybody. Talk to you soon.